Welcome to the Sage video On-Demand Presentation Integration Touchpoints. After viewing this session, you will have a better understanding of the major touchpoints between Sage CRM and Sage Accpac ERP. Let's take a look at our topics of focus. The first will be accounts receivable, accounts payable, and order entry. There are 4 other modules that are available for integration, such as optional fields, purchase orders, project and job costing, and return management authorization. Let's take a look at the modules of focus. Accounts receivable will be the first. Now let's look at our first module of focus, accounts receivable. Within Sage CRM, we have our first touch point. Promote to Accpac is the tab that we're setting on within the company Mr. Ronald Black. On this tab, we actually have the ability to promote a prospect to Accpac ERP as an actual accounting customer. We also, once that company is promoted, have the ability to change the link and unlink them, or we can also update the information provided on the screen, such as their tax group. The next tab is the accounts receivable AR inquiry tab. On this tab, we actually have access to posted transactions, we have unposted transactions, unposted receipts, and unposted refunds. All of this information can be drilled into and seen from within Sage CRM. The next tab is customer statistics. On this tab, we have credit information about Ronald Black, the specific company that we're in within Sage CRM. We also have aging. Within the aging area, we can actually age our receivables specific to Ronald Black. We also have document totals and a document history available on this tab, Customer Statistics. On the right, we can also drill in by clicking on the Customer Activity button to the actual AR data directly. Let's take a look at the demonstration now of this area. You can now see that I've switched over to Sage CRM. You'll note that Sage CRM runs in a browser, and I've selected Mr. Ronald Black, the company, at the top of the screen. You can see I'm on the tab Promote to Accpac, and on this tab I can click on Change to change the customer link or update the information on this screen. You can now see I have the Sage Accpac customer information available. I can change the customer number or look at other details. I'm going to click Cancel, and we'll continue over to the next tab. The next tab is AR Inquiry. On the AR Inquiry tab, we can see posted transactions for Mr. Ronald Black. When I click into the posted transactions area, what this will show me is all the AR posted transactions for Mr. Ronald Black. I can scroll down and see all of this customer information. I have several options available. I can click into the hyperlink to see the document. I have the ability to drill down, and I can also see applied details or payments against this document. I'll click on this invoice here. And by clicking on the invoice, I now see the Sage CRM AR Inquiry entry screen, and I can actually see the original source transaction. And I can drill into any of the additional data available: document, taxes, terms, optional fields, sales split, and totals. I'll click on Close, and that closes that transaction out. But if I scroll down and I choose that invoice again by clicking on Drill Down, this actually allows me to see the same data I just saw on the actual invoice screen. I can actually now see it within a Sage CRM screen. So I have the same information available either way. I can now choose to look at this information. I can edit this information, which will bring up that previous screen we saw, or I can click on New and open up a new AR invoice. We'll continue on. The next tab is Customer Statistics. On the Customer Statistics, you can see I now have access to the credit information, the aging, the document totals, and the document history for Mr. Ronald Black. If I scroll down, I can see all the details related to the document totals and document history. On the credit information, a couple items to point out. I can see whether or not this customer is on hold. I can also see their balance due, their credit limit, their group, and their current status in the system. So Sage CRM allows me to see all of this data without actually having to go directly to Accpac ERP. Down here on the bottom in the document history, I can see their high balance. I can also see their largest invoice this year, their last invoice, their last receipt, and their last credit note. Right above that we have our aging, and we can actually see their balance aged over 30, 60, 90 days. And we can see they have a balance within the 31 to 60 day range. On the right, we have a customer activity button. This button allows me to actually have access to this same information but within Accpac ERP. Let's continue on with our presentation. We just finished up showing accounts receivable touch points. Let's now look at accounts payable touch points. Within Sage CRM, we have the ability to promote, on the Promote to Accpac tab, a vendor over to an AP vendor inside of Sage Accpac ERP. We can see the vendor number here, 1200, their tax group, their group code, and their terms. All of this is provided when the initial record is pushed from Sage CRM to Sage Accpac ERP. The next tab over on the vendor, Chloride Systems, is AP Inquiry. Inside of AP Inquiry, we have the ability to see posted transactions for AP, unposted invoices, and unposted payments. The next tab over is Vendor Statistics. Within Vendor Statistics, we can actually see the credit information, the aging, the document history, and the document totals for Chloride Systems. Let's now look at a demonstration of the product. Now within Sage CRM, let's take a look at a vendor, Chloride Systems. We can see at the top we have their phone number, their email, their vendor number, and that we're on the Promote to Accpac tab. This is the same tab we spoke of earlier, but we now can actually drill into this tab and click on Change, and change the customer number if I want, or look at the other related data such as groups, terms, and tax group. The next tab over is AP Inquiry. The AP Inquiry tab allows me to view posted transactions, unposted, and unposted invoices. If I click on posted transactions here, you can actually see that I have posted transactions for this vendor, Chloride Systems, available for viewing. If I scroll down, I can click on the invoice number and actually see the invoice, as we've seen earlier when I looked at AR. But we can also just click on drill down and see those details inside of Sage CRM. So I can see if there's any payments been made against this open invoice, and I can see if there's any optional fields information available, and I can also click on new and create a new payment. I can edit this one, and when I click on edit, it's going to open up that screen and allow me to view and edit that information. Or I can go back to posted transactions, or I can go back to the AP Inquiry menu. So at this point I'm going to go back to the main screen, and now I can scroll over and choose the next tab of Vendor Statistics. Inside Vendor Statistics, we have our credit information. Again, we have our vendor number, their terms, the currency that we're working with them in, their balance due, if there's any retainage, their optional field information, number of open invoices. All of this is good, valuable information when we're looking at this vendor and we need to speak to them about an open issue we might have. We also can see their document information here, their document totals. We can see their document history. We can also take a look at their aging inside of Sage CRM as well. Over here on the right, we have vendor activity, which will allow me to see this similar data, but actually within Accpac ERP. We also have run aging, so I can update the aging and run a current aging in the system and see this vendor data. Let's now continue on with our modules of focus and look at the order entry module. Within Sage CRM, on the company, Mr. Ronald Black, customer number 1200, we have the tab OE Inquiry selected. On this tab, we can see all orders, which gives us a list of all the orders within order entry. We can create a new order and actually allow that to be posted to order entry directly. We can see a list of all the credit and debit notes available in the system. We can also see a list of all the pending shipments in the system. And we can see a list of the line items that this customer has purchased in the past via sales history. Another part of the order entry integration is an integration between our opportunities inside of Sage CRM to quotes and orders within Sage Accpac ERP. So I can actually create a quote as a salesperson and process it through a sales process defined inside of Sage CRM. And with the use of that sales process and this quoting functionality, I can then generate an actual order and process that and push it over into the accounting system, Accpac ERP. Let's now take a look at a demonstration of the product functionality. Now we're back inside of Sage CRM. Within Sage CRM, I've selected Mr. Ronald Black, customer number 1200. And on Mr. Ronald Black, I've selected the OE Inquiry tab. And in this tab, we can see that we have all orders, new order, credit debit notes, pending shipments, and sales history. If I click on all orders here, I'll be able to see the orders that have been processed for Mr. Ronald Black. On this first order, we have order number 1. I can drill down and actually see the order details within Sage CRM without ever having to leave the Sage CRM product itself. I can see the line items. I can see that there are optional field information available for this record. I can also click into the item and actually see item information unique to this specific item. I'll hide the little coaching here so we can see more information. So we can see the item information, we can see the quantities on hand for this item, quantity on sales order, quantity on PO, and we can see this information by location, and then we also have a grand total at the bottom. So all of this data we now have access to inside of Sage CRM without ever having to go back to the accounting system Accpac ERP. I can now close this screen. I can also drill down on the location and actually see information related to that specific location as well. So the system allows me to drill into data from a couple of different fashions. If I want to actually edit this order, I can click on the edit screen, and this will actually allow me to edit this order inside of Accpac ERP. At this point, we'll just go back to our all orders list, which takes me to this screen where I had the order listed, and then I can go back one more screen and go back to the OE Inquiry menu. At this point, now let's take a look at creating an order inside of an actual opportunity. Still within Sage CRM, I've navigated to the Opportunities tab on Mr. Ronald Black. On this tab, I have an opportunity that Ronald Black has asked for a quote on a desk lamp. So if I click into the opportunity, I can see the details of the opportunity, and I can now click on the Sage Accpac Quote tab, and this will allow me to generate a quote for Mr. Ronald Black. I'll click on the Create and Link a New Quote tab here. After clicking on that button, I now see the Sage CRM order entry screen showing Ronald Black's customer number 1200 and the reference that ties the two records together. I can now come down to the line item details and select from the finder the fluorescent desk lamp that he wants. I can tab on over and put in the quantity he'd like to order. He'd like to order 2 items. So I put in the 2 items and then I complete the line. After completing the line, I can go back to the line. I can see location details, location information specific to this item. I can now at this point post this transaction, and once this is posted, I can print this. I can choose to print it. It's just a typical Accpac ERP quote, so I'm going to say no at this point. So now that item's been processed and the quote number's been generated, I can close this screen, And at the point of closing that screen, the screen behind me, which is the Sage CRM screen, refreshes, and I now see that quote available inside of Sage CRM. At this point, I can start processing the order through the use of our sales automation, which is, we can say this opportunity has been qualified, we can save this, and we can continue through the process of saying the proposal or the quote has been submitted. I can put in a forecast value, I can set the certainty, and I can go ahead and click save. Now at this point, I want to go ahead and actually process this quote because I've called Ron and he's gotten the information and he says, yes, that's good. Let's go ahead and place the order. So I can go ahead and at this point go back to the Sage Accpac Quote tab and click on Promote to Order. And when I click on Promote to Order, that now allows me to push that order, or excuse me, that quote, as an order over into the order entry screen for Accpac ERP. We can see the status has been changed to 1, and we can see the stage has been sent to Sell Agreed. That completes our look at our modules of focus: accounts receivable, accounts payable, and order entry. Let's now speak about our additional modules that are available for the integration as well: optional fields, purchase orders, project and job costing, return management authorization. Within optional fields, we have an element that ties to accounts receivable and our customer, for example, Mr. Ronald Black. On this company within Sage CRM, we have an optional fields tab. That tab allows us to see the customer optional field data as it relates to this specific customer, Ronald Black. And of course, we have a change button so we can edit this data and put in more current or update the relevant data. The next element related to optional fields is from a vendor perspective, accounts payable related item. We have an optional fields tab on Chloride Systems, which is a vendor within our Sample Company Inc. database. We can see the vendor optional field data as it relates to specifically Chloride Systems. And again, as previously seen, we can click on change and edit this information related to Chloride Systems specifically. The next module that's available is purchase orders. From a vendor perspective, we can actually see a PO inquiry tab related to Chloride Systems. On this tab, we can see a list of all purchase orders, create a new purchase order, list all requisitions, list all returns, list all credit or debit notes, a list of all the pending receipts, and a list of all the item purchase history that we have purchased from Chloride Systems over the years. The next tab is PM Inquiry, and this is from a customer perspective, project and job costing. We can see all transactions, transaction history, we can create a new contract for project and job costing, and we can also see all of the contracts available for project and job costing related to specifically Mr. Ronald Black. The next tab related to project and job costing is for a vendor, for example, Chloride Systems. Within Chloride Systems, we can now see we have an Accpac vendor number of 1200, and we see that we're on the tab PM Inquiry, which is project management or project and job costing. Here we can see we have access to all of their transaction history for Chloride Systems as it relates to Accpac ERP and project and job costing. The next module is return management authorization. We have accounts receivable perspective as well as accounts payable perspective. Here we're looking at Mr. Ronald Black, accounts receivable customer 1200. We have the RA inquiry tab that we've selected. We can see that we have a list of all the return authorizations that we can view, and we can create a new return authorization as well for this customer inside of Sage CRM. The next tab is also related to return management authorization, and that's accounts payable for vendors. So we can actually see a list of all return authorizations related to our vendor, for example, Chloride Systems, Accpac vendor number 1200. And now our overview of what we've discussed during this session. Modules of focus. We talked about accounts receivable, accounts payable, and order entry. We also showed an actual demonstration of the functionality within these modules. Additional modules that are available that we spoke to were optional fields, purchase orders, project and job costing, and return management authorization. If you're interested in our products or our services for these modules that we spoke to today, you can reach out to us at sales.accpac@sage.com or call us at 1-877-237-5786. Thank you for attending our Sage Video On-Demand Presentation Integration Touchpoints. Hopefully you've seen in this session that you now have a better understanding of the major touchpoints between Sage CRM and Sage Accpac ERP.